I'm Jenny Sauer. I'm with the End User Tools group with PPQ Field Ops, and I'm going to take you through End User Tools presents EWBBB data collection using, and stars here, ArcGIS field maps. It's a new application this year. So first things first, I asked you how you might have prepared, because hopefully you have some preparation under your belt before taking this training, but this training is being recorded, and so you can review it again later once you've had a chance to go back and kind of make sure you really understand field maps and and iPad basics and things you need to know. So why are you here? Some of you, if you have some reasons, go ahead and type it in the chat. Some things I'm thinking about is maybe my supervisor told me to be here. Maybe you're just curious. What's this training about anyway? I'll go see it. It's only half an hour. It could be that you're a little bit afraid or nervous over a new app and just want to see what that's about. So go ahead and type in the chat. I see at least one of you. I had nothing else to do. Thanks a lot. Well, hopefully this can be better than nothing else to do. So that's a low bar I feel like I can meet. So thank you for trapping just to get familiar. That's a good response. These are good reasons to be here. And hopefully you maybe have some of your own. I hate it when you're just told to be somewhere, but hopefully you can see the benefit of getting this short little training today. It's going to go by pretty fast. So I'm going to ask you to stay on mute. And I'm going to even take off my video so we can just concentrate and kind of get through it. I'm going to hopefully leave some time for questions at the end, but I also hope you can reach out and let me know if you needed something more out of today's training or if you have more questions. So each year, End User Tools consults and refreshes the map for EWBBB and the data form for the program for survey data collection. And while your national operations managers, which in this case are Lisa Jackson and Darrell Bays, are responsible for communicating survey protocol to you all and all of those requirements, this training is just a quick step to make sure you understand how to use the application as it was designed to collect EWBBB data. So you'll make your supervisors happy, you'll satisfy that curiosity, you'll have something better to do, all those reasons, and reduce some fear, maybe some nerves, build some confidence in using it. So in short, this little training is going to enable you to do your job well. And two quick resources I want to share where you might find documents, recorded training, all of the things that we polled for to see if you've checked out already. One is the Mobile Data Collection Tools webpage. I'm going to pull that over and show it to you here. Hopefully many of you know this webpage already. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat for you just in case. I would very much recommend that you bookmark this website and look for it often for updates. And one thing I want to point out to you, well, two things. First of all, this training events site gives you all of the trainings for the year. You can see there's exotic wood borer bark beetle, and there's the link to join and alternate dates to come back. So if you'd like to attend it again, there's another one April 19th. So all of the training for our pest programs national apps are listed here for you right now to go ahead and join. And then going back, pest program specific training documents are listed here. You'll find a manual and a quick reference guide for EWBBB. And scrolling down on this page, you can see there's a video gallery. Sorry if that's in the way. This is where this training will appear under this category pest program. It's also highly searchable. You can type pretty much anything in here and you'll come up with the video that you like. So please make sure that you keep track of this website. It's going to help you a ton. Secondly, this training has a quiz which will be really helpful. Really, they're easy. I try to make them as easy as possible, but in just kind of summing up what you learned here today. And I'm going to say it's totally fine with me for you to open this quiz now and follow along with me as we talk over the answers and plugging in the answers. The big advantage to this quiz is it's giving you that little knowledge check. And secondly, you'll get, if you fill out this question here on the email address correctly, you'll get a little email that says you completed this training. So sometimes that's helpful to pass on to supervisors or maybe put on your wall or put it in your back pocket as like an accomplishment that you've done. But you do get an email that says you completed this course if you complete the quiz. So I'm going to stick that in the chat right now as well for you. Please feel free to open it up. Doesn't bother me a bit. So what we're going to talk about today, we already broached it a little bit. There's a new app. Instead of Collector, the company that makes Collector has upgraded to something called Field Maps. We'll talk about what that is. There is a new enterprise URL. Signing into that app looks exactly like it did in Collector for those who used Collector last year. And now training maps are hosted on another site as well. So we'll kind of sort that out a bit. We're going to review, hopefully it's a review, I hope, the disconnected workflow. We'll talk about a trapping workflow for EWBBB, and we'll look at the data form. I will show you that once we've talked it through from my iPad view, and we'll kind of look at what that looks like. And then lastly, we'll talk about some caution areas. These are things that maybe last year were more difficult, or that when you all are doing these training quizzes, answers that I noticed that people maybe are a little confused about, just to kind of confirm your knowledge, make sure that we're on track there. Firstly, what is ArcGIS Field Maps? So most of you answered, a lot of you answered that you used Collector last year. So that's going to help you a ton, because what you've heard about it being pretty similar is true. It's very similar. Hopefully you've attended some live training on Field Maps itself. I would encourage, if you haven't, there are 2 more offerings. We had a big group there, and so we've got 2 more offerings. Check out the website and make sure that you join if you want to. And then there is that option of self-paced video training. There are 10 really short segment videos that take you into the depths of field maps, and they're meant to be taken in bites. You don't have to swallow the whole course in one. You can do a little 5-minute video, learn how to do one thing, and then come back to it at another time. And some of you said other, and this might be things like survey protocol, maybe talking to your field office staff and kind of figuring out iPad stuff. There's a whole lot to kind of make sure you're comfortable with before diving in. So great, thank you guys for sharing that. That helps me a ton. Here's ESRI, the company that makes its kind of breakdown on what Field Maps is. And what they've done is they've updated the Collector app, which will eventually integrate features offered in all 5 of these mobile apps, some of which you might be familiar with. Probably the one many of you are familiar with is the Collector app, if you've used it last year. So it's really built on the Collector app, and then some features from these other apps are being pulled in. For now, it really should function pretty nearly identical to Collector. And our team, when we've configured maps, have taken it real easy on taking advantage of things that might update or change. So we've taken it really easy on you this year. So it shouldn't be a big change for you this year. Secondly, a big piece of the puzzle is the ArcGIS Enterprise, or sometimes we refer to it as the APHIS GIS portal. Was previously managed directly by ESRI, that company, and it was migrated in November 2021 to MRP management. So this is a good thing for troubleshooting, access, and speed, among other convenience factors. And all access to the old URL accounts have been removed. So you can't accidentally go into the wrong portal, but you do want to be careful to type in the correct URL here. And the way this usually works, this is just a screenshot from my iPad, is that you want to hit the button here to sign in with ArcGIS Enterprise. And then you're asked to specify a new URL, which, as you can see right here in the URL that's been typed previously, MRP is right there. So that's how you know that's the correct URL that you want to type in there. And that's available in all of our documentation, just like it was last year. You'll find that all there, but just a good thing for you all to know. So you want to make sure that is the official data collection URL. Secondly, alluded to already, is the idea that there are training maps. And last year and previously, we hosted training maps in a group, and we named it Training All Caps in the title of the map, but they were all found in the same portal. And this year, we have to host these in what we call a stage portal. So you might already see that here under this training URL, STG. Consider that as the word staging. And so there's some other ways that we can identify that it's a training map versus a real map. Training versions have the word training in all caps, And so what we want to do is really hone in on the fact that this year, official data has to be in the official MRP USDA portal, and training data, or really sometimes we use training maps for demos or exercises, any unreal, any not real, any playtime map stuff would happen in this training or stage portal. So just to really hone that in, I'm going to throw a poll in there, and I would like you all to tell me official field data must be collected in, and the two options, this should be pretty easy, I hope. Can you collect official data in a training map or in the official MRP production map? I want 100% out of this, please, please, please. This gets a little tricky when you're in there. I'm gonna point out a few ways for you to notice in the iPad. Training maps have really dull base maps. There's no imagery there. They're pretty ugly. And that map title says training, all caps right at the top. So you want to be extra, extra careful this year. If you're playing around or practicing or demoing something in a training map, do not put official data in a training map. Make sure that you're in the right map when you're collecting data. Thank you, guys. And we got 100%, so yay, I'm so glad. Thank you. There's the results. So that's a big time question that I want to make sure that you're clear on. Moving right along, this disconnected mode workflow should look pretty familiar to all of you by now. It's in a lot of our manuals, and we go over it every time we talk. Basically, the ArcGIS Field Maps application is specifically designed to operate while disconnected, meaning not connected to Wi-Fi. And that's a beauty for us out in the field, because we often cannot remain connected to Wi-Fi out in some of these rural areas to collect data. So the basic workflow is that an area of interest is downloaded to your device while you're connected to Wi-Fi, maybe in the office, maybe in a hotel. And then the device is disconnected from the internet and field data collection is performed. And then end of the day kind of scenario, once a reliable network connection is regained, that data is synchronized with the online map posted in the MRP, USDA MRP GIS Enterprise portal. EWBBB has a couple of specific workflows also to how the data is entered into the app. So I want to talk through those, and then I'm going to jump in and show you what that looks like in practice on the iPad. Okay, so number one is just a basic trapping workflow. The first visit to a location is placing a trap, and then all future visits are recorded as a trap activity. Placing the trap actually places a point on the map and symbolizes it by trap for EWBBB. So placing that trap is the actual geographic location of that trap. And then all future visits are really recorded in a table that's related to that same location. I'll show you a little bit about that. We'll do that together in just a minute, but that's the basic workflow for EWBBB. Some other workflows that occur kind of as needed might be the need to update a trap site status. The status is either active or inactive, and anytime a trap is removed or missing or relocated, it should update to inactive, and that's something that you'll have to enter in that field. Relocating a trap is another workflow, and the end of season process is another workflow sort of similar to relocating a trap. So what does relocating a trap look like? This could be a helpful little graphic for you all too. Really, the original location, you do two data entries. Number one would be a trap activity of remove, because you're removing that trap. Then you want to update that trap status to inactive, and then physically walk that trap down this pathway to wherever the trap is moving to, and then you will perform that place the trap step. Now, really key is this remove trap activity. When you record a trap activity such as remove, that trap site, the symbol on the map should remain. It should not delete the trap symbol. And this is actually correct and really important to data capture. We would not delete the symbol on the map because that's actually data entry with the whole history of that trap site, right? So when we remove a trap, physically or in data entry, actually pick the trap up and move it or record that remove, that symbol on the map does not delete. It should not be deleted. The entire history of that trap location is recorded and retained on the map, and the last activity should be remove in this case. So that's important for you to note as well. Do not think that you should delete that trap symbol. Similarly, the end of season process is typically this top original location, these two steps in which you would record a trap activity of remove and then update that trap site status to inactive. It would leave out placing the trap because it's end of season, right? So end of season is pretty similar in that way. Will I talk about this app on an iPhone? Is Lauren's question in the chat. And Lauren, great question. This app should look exactly the same from the iPhone. The disconnected workflow gets a little fuzzy on an iPhone because it's going to use cellular data and keep you connected. But as far as the look and the operation of this app from an iPhone, it will be the same. Thanks, that's a great segue, Lauren. Let's go ahead and move forward to having a view. What does that look like from the iPad? Okay, so let's look at the data form from the iPad. Here's my iPad for us to look at. Okay, so I've got a little list, and what we've just talked about, I'd like to go through with you so you can kind of see what that looks like from the iPad. So here is, this is my PPQ managed iPad. I've got all the survey apps kind of listed along the top. I might have apps that you don't. I've got a lot of testing that goes on with this iPad, so try to just focus in on field maps here, and we'll go ahead and tap it to open it. Normally I would have signed in, but because I already was signed in and was already in this map, it took me directly in, just like how Collector used to. You can see right away it's a pretty dull looking map. There's no imagery, but just to check where I am, I'm going to go back. Actually, I'm going to go all the way back to the main map page, and I can see that there's a ton of training maps going on here, and this group here, end user tools training. So I'm pretty sure if I've got these maps that start with that capital word training, I am in the training portal. So I'm good to test out and show you all this demo, and none of the data here is official data. This is all test data. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already previously downloaded an offline area in EWBBB. I'm going to go ahead and go into that and open that map. And you can see I've got some points in here that I've already tested some things out with. Along the top, there's my sync button, these two arrows. I can see that I don't have anything to sync yet. We'll see a difference there later. I've got a layers menu, and I have a reference layer here for 2021 trap sites that is defaulted to off, and a markup layer that is defaulted to off. If you want to learn more about the markup layer, there is a whole video talking about markup and measure, and you can, I'll close this, you can locate that along with the legend. So there's the legend with all of the symbols for each trap, the markup layer, and a measure tool, and maybe some other tools that you might use in here. I don't need this reference layer right now, but if I needed it, I would just toggle it on, and I'll toggle it right back off. So I have the layers I want here visible. Let's go ahead and add a trap site. So to do that, I would hit this plus button here at the bottom right, and that first asks me the question of which trap I'm going to install. Let's see, what color don't we have here? I'm going to use the Prism Trap Green. Again, I know nothing about survey protocol, so please just, this is just an example. But you can see here the data form opens. A couple things about the data form. We have required fields symbolized by this asterisk, gray asterisk or star. Those mean those are required. Not all are required. Let's see, is there one not required here? All are required on this data form so far. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill it out. And total disregard for survey protocol. I'm going to say agriculture. I'm going to, since this is a test, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm on 7. Use the keyboard and fill that out. And surveyor, I'm going to say Jenny S. If the field has if the next field is also going to use the keyboard, it kind of knows that intuitively. So you have the option to just hit next to go to the next field, or done to close the keyboard. I'm going to try next. And here's the date. So this date's also got a little restriction. If I go back a couple months, you can see I really can only go back to the 31st. It's restricted to 2022. And now I'm on January 9th. I can just go ahead and hit today to make sure that we update to today's date, which this is today's date. And then if I tap it again, it closes the date so that I don't accidentally maybe touch it again. I've filled out the form in total. I usually check it over one more time. Is this all correct? Well, it's all play data right now, right? You might have noticed I moved the point away. This little blue dot is my actual location on the map, but just for the sake of you being able to see the symbol without me having to walk out of my house, I'm going to place it kind of oddly up here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add point. And now you can see that symbol there, that green diamond is there. And now I can go ahead and hit submit. And then while this is submitted, it remains selected. So you can see that little blue halo around it. If I'd like to add a trap activity, then I would have to select it. Since this one's selected, and just to prove the point, I'm going to add a trap activity. Let's say I walk over to this trap site and pay it a visit. So now this one is selected. And in order to add a trap activity, I can either select this link icon here, or scroll up on the data form and tap on EWBBB activities. See that same link icon there to open that trap activities form. Now I can see every activity that's happened for this site already, which you probably will have a much longer list here, but I have visited it before. So let's go ahead and add a trap activity. I'm going to fill this out, Jenny S. I'm going to hit done. The trap activity defaults to monitor. I'm going to say I had to replace the lure this time. And now we see a couple of optional fields, comments and field sample ID and activity date. I'm going to leave that date blank right now just to prove a point and hit submit. And you can see you get this message that says unable to submit, one attribute failed. So even though you'll get a blue ability to hit submit, you'll find that it will give you that little messaging and say, no, you actually have to complete something. And now we've got a nice little red message here. This is the one you need to complete. So let's go ahead and put that date in. And today is correct. I'm going to tap it again to close that up. I'm always going to check over my data form to be sure I've filled everything out correctly and submit. So now we have added a trap site and a trap activity. You see what happens if you miss a required field, and you understand the limits to the date field. The relocate workflow might be helpful. So if you are going to relocate a trap, remember there are two steps on the original trap. First, you have to remove the trap as a trap activity entry and update the trap status to inactive. So let's say this trap, for whatever reason, I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to go ahead and select the trap to move carefully. You might even zoom in to be sure that you've got the right trap. I'm going to select the trap to be moved. And in order to enter a trap activity, remember, we select and then we hit this link here to the trap activities. I'm going to add a trap activity, Jenny S, and we want this to be remove. And I'll make this today's date and hit submit. So that's step one. Still with it selected now, what we want to do is edit the main data form. And in order to edit, you can see the option is right here down at the bottom with the pencil. So we want to go ahead and hit edit. And actually, we don't want the trap activities. Let's get out of the trap activities. Here's the main data form. And see that trap status field active? So we're going to hit edit. We're going to scroll down, change this to inactive. I always check this data form one more time and hit submit. So that's the two steps on the original site, but note that symbol is still there. So that symbol is there, but with the last activity as remove. And now we just go ahead and pick up where we normally would to place a trap, and we go ahead and place it, you know, where we are. So that's already covered. One thing I want to point out, I'm going to cancel out of that. One thing changed here at the sync button. You see that little dot there? So that's an indicator that we have actually entered edits that are held right now in our downloaded map area to the device, and they're ready to go out, that arrow out. So at the end of the day, when we return back to Wi-Fi connection, we would tap that sync button and go ahead and sync these edits that we've just done here together. Caution areas, we've covered these already together a little bit, but just to overview them, be sure that you're entering real data in the official MRP portal and training data in a training map only. We want to be sure we're using disconnected data collection if possible. Always check your data entries over. Just give it one more look. That daily data sync really is best performed twice, actually, in the morning and in the evening. Pull in data and push it out together and make sure you have the most up-to-date map. The markup layer is something you should be careful of. It really only lives on your device. And so it's kind of like writing in your diary is how I kind of put it. Be careful that the things that you're putting in there are not official data. It is not an official data collection layer. How about getting help? This is an important one. You have NOMs that you can go to for anything program related. iPad issues, CECIT supports our iPads, and you should open a ticket with them if you need it. Portal access is a process on its own. You should go to your supervisor first to help you facilitate having access and maintaining access to this portal. All things training related, go to that website that I put in the chat box and keep up to date on that. Of course, you can also always reach out to us. And finally, these are the kind of quick little objectives we went over. But finally, make sure you take that quiz. And I'm seeing a couple questions here in the chat. So what I'm going to do is point you to the quiz and see if I can work through some of these questions in the chat. Vladimir pointed out that you can actually search for traps by site name or by trap ID. Thanks, Vlad. That's cool. Nick asks if some of the fields are offering the option to scan a QR code. That's kind of a default of the application, but right now EWBBB isn't scanning QR codes as far as I'm aware. That's something we could look into, Nick, and that's something you should ask the program NOM about. For each of these pest programs using field apps. It is an option in a lot of the fields where you could take a photo or scan a QR code, but it has to be enabled for that field. Lauren asks, what kinds of things would we add to the comments part of a field? Again, survey protocol question, and I can't offer suggestions on survey protocol. That would be something you would want to check back with your supervisor, Lauren, or the program NOM. So finally, everyone, I just want to say that was a couple questions. If you have more questions, I'm here. Please reach out and ask them. This is like a whirlwind training just on how that form looks and how it pertains to EWBBB, but I understand you could need more support and there could be more questions. So please feel free to reach out anytime, but please make sure that you are taking advantage of all the training that can lead you up to this point, and feel free to circle back to me if you need to.